What is going on, guys? Tim O'Connor here with Metabolic Fitness. Today I want to take some time to talk to you about the squat, all right? One of the 5 foundational movements, all right? We see a lot of squats here at Metabolic, right? But not all squats are created equal, so wanted to run you through a few of the variations that we perform here on a regular basis, the different equipment that we'll use, and how to perform them properly, right? So first and foremost, as far as squats go, we have dumbbell squats. We have the front squat, we have catcher squats, goblet squats, the sandbag squat where we would back rack that weight. You have kettlebell squats where maybe you're going goblet style or potentially suitcase style, right? Again, multiple ways with multiple pieces of equipment. So getting to the dumbbells, the front squat, all right, one of the more famous ones, one of the ones that a lot of people like to see, all right, we're gonna pop those dumbbells up to the front. You'll notice the weight is located more in the front, all right? It's more forward in my position, which is gonna force me to have to stay a little bit more upright as I sink into my squats, all right? So you'll notice my torso pretty vertical as I sink down to the bottom, all right? Not much hinge going on there, keeping that nice and tall chest as I go. A similar thing would happen in the event of a goblet squat, right? Again, that weight is loaded forward in front of me, so I need to work hard to keep my chest upright, all right? Because if I allow myself to fall, that weight is only gonna pull me further into flexion, right? And put a little bit more stress on my lower back, right? Similar setup when it comes to our goblet squat with the kettlebell, all right? You would swing that kettlebell up to the top. Here at Metabolic, we like to hold both hands on the bell of the kettlebell like so, all right? There are instances where we will hold it by the horns, all right? Typically in a lighter loaded instance, but for right now, we'll just focus on holding it by the bell. And again, it's loaded in front, so I'm really focusing on staying a little bit taller, a little bit more upright as I descend into that squat, right? When it comes to the sandbag, we typically like to load this one on our back because that weight is a little bit further back in our stance. It's a little bit safer in a sense to allow our chest to come down a little bit more. So you'll see I'm not as vertical with my torso angle, a little bit more hip flexion occurring at that waistline, right? So again, I'll show you, I'm sinking down, my chest is coming down a little bit more, but the one important factor in all those is that I'm maintaining a neutral spine, right? So your spine has a natural curvature to it, right? If I'm standing like this from this profile, it would be curved up here, my thoracic spine curved this way, and my lumbar spine curved the opposite way. So that's natural for everybody, but everybody has varying degrees of that curvature. What we're looking for is a nice neutral lumbar spine and a nice extended thoracic spine being the upper portion of that back, right? So something to keep in mind when performing any of those squat variations, right? As far as the lower half goes, gang, right, things we need to think about is how wide we're gonna get our feet or how narrow, right? If you're a taller individual, generally, we're gonna be a little bit wider stance, right? And that's generally because the length of our femurs is a little bit longer. So our knees, if we're too narrow, would track well in front of our toes, right? But if we can get a little bit wider as a taller, longer-legged individual, we can allow our hips to sit back and sit deep into that squat, all right? That doesn't necessarily mean that all shorter or shorter femured individuals need to or have to be narrow with their squats. They can just as well get wide. But for a taller individual, you're gonna wanna start wider at least until you've worked quality hip mobility and are able to maintain good extension through the back, right? A couple more things to think about as we're going, something called knee valgus, right? And that's essentially the inward collapsing of your knees as you sink into a squat, right? You don't want your knees to be tracking in here, right? Essentially what's happening is just that your glutes are not fully engaged in the lift, all right? Squats, it's all about the booty. So we need to make sure that we're keeping those knees tracking over our toes as we sit into that squat, right down and right up, right? Now, if you find that this is happening frequently, under load, whether you're holding a kettlebell, a sandbag, or a dumbbell, that probably means that that load is a little bit aggressive, gang, right? So dial it back, potentially work that body weight. You can also work a number of exercises to help strengthen those glutes. The most simple being something like a mini band abduction or a monster walk of sorts, all right? So from here, I would get that mini band on. Above the knee will be a little bit easier. Below the knee will make it a little bit more challenging as you get further away from the joint that is under action here. I'm gonna sit into that squatted position, all right? And again, I'm just gonna work on keeping my knees out over my feet. The band wants to pull them in. I'm just gonna work on keeping them out. If I wanna make this more of a dynamic movement, I can step out and drive them out, back in, step out and drive them out like so. You can also work that in a forward and back pattern, also known as the monster walk, but all the while I'm working on keeping that outward tension to help develop and engage my glutes, all right? Second thing we need to think about as far as just preparing ourselves for squats is just our overall mobility, right? At Metabolic, we do primers before our workouts every day, usually anywhere from 4 to 6 minutes worth of a mobility warm-up, right? On days that we squat, you're gonna see a lot of hip mobility focused movements, right? So something that we'll do, simply a bottom squat. You can do this body weight without anything. If you have trouble sitting back into your heels, all right, we'll suggest grabbing onto something to counterbalance you, keep you from tipping over, but allow you to sit back, get your butt down, keep your chest up, and maintain that nice neutral extended spine, right? Holding that position, driving those elbows into the knees again to help widen them. Could also do something known as a frogger, which is similar, right? We're just not in that squatted position. We're getting those knees out wide, all right, and sinking back, all right? From the hands would be a more intermediate variation. We could work down to our forearms and really push ourselves back into this position, again, just to open up and widen those hips and lengthen those adductors of the inner thigh, right? Last one you'll see pretty frequently is the Spider-Man, right? Spider-Man mobility, push-up position. This one you can work unilaterally, right, and really just focus on one side at a time. Great for getting the hip flexors, even gets the hamstrings a little bit. I'm thinking about locking out my back leg, trying to get this front foot up by my fingertips, all right, and I'm bracing my core and I'm lengthening the whole front side, quad, hip flexor, right? You name it, right there is where we're gonna be. And again, you would just simply flip over to that other side right there. Those are just a few movements to help open up the hips, get you prepped and primed for those squat patterns that you're gonna see, again, on a pretty regular basis here at Metabolic, but we love them because they help us get stronger. This video helped you guys, let us know. We'd love to give you more information and help make your experience that much better.